Guys, I'm Donald Franzo, and it's free agency time in the NBA. It's honestly one of my favorite times in the whole accumulation of the NBA season, this and summer league and the draft. It's all very interesting things, and obviously since the finals was kind of lackluster, this is something to look on, and we're gonna start off with the biggest news of free agency, and that's Paul George. And Paul George going to the 76ers. It was a Woj bomb at around 12:30, I want to say. And those are actually, as a Thunder fan, which we'll get into all the teams and what they've done. When Paul George got traded from the Thunder to the Clippers, it was like 4 a.m. Eastern time. So classic Woj bomb at around this time, honestly. It's surreal when you get the Woj, and it's something like this. So we'll start off with the 76ers, right? They just re-signed Tyrese Maxey to a supermax, or to a max extension. Embiid's locked in for a while. They brought back some of their players, but Paul George mainly is the main attraction, right? So Paul George, the details on it, for 4 years, $205 million. So what you do here is Paul George was accustomed to being the second fiddle on a championship contending team. Now, in my personal opinion, Max is going to be that second, and obviously Embiid's the first, and Paul George will go third. Paul George, you can plug him into any situation, and he'll do well. I think we've seen that from time to time, and obviously in Indiana he did well. In OKC, he was, in my opinion, in his prime. He was in MVP voting, third in MVP voting. And obviously with the Clippers, he had All-Star years, All NBA years. So obviously he's past his prime, right? Paul George is nearing the end of his career, but you have a 2 to 3 year window where he's gonna be almost, if not at his top level. So this is where you're gonna have Maxey taking steps to grow. Embiid we know what Embiid can do, and I think it's interesting. They also got back Kelly Oubre, 2 years, 16.3 mil. So they're kind of filling out the roster. They had a good draft. I really like Jared McCain's game. Provides a lot of shooting for them. So you're gonna look at a starting lineup probably with Maxey at the one. I don't know who's gonna play the two. You could slide Paul George to the two, Oubre to the three, and B to the center. And I don't think they have a power forward on contract on the team yet. So they're still going to fill out the roster. And I do think Nick Nurse is a phenomenal coach in my opinion. I do think he can make these stars work together. And for the Clippers, which we'll get into, not re-signing Paul George. What was that decision? So the Clippers, what they've done in free agency is kind of just like use that money they were going to give Paul George to other players. They saw Derrick Jones sign him to a 3 year, I think $30 million deal. Nick Batum, they brought back 2 year, 9.6. Mo Bamba on a 1 year deal. So and they also re-signed James Harden, who's going to be a free agent. So with this new Clipper team that's going to go into the new arena in Inglewood, you're going to see a team kind of led by Kawhi and James Harden and a bunch of really, really good role players, which I think the Clippers always have really, really solid role players. And obviously there was tension between Paul George and the front office. Rumors were that they didn't tell Paul George that they were gonna sign Kawhi to that kind of money, and he wanted the same amount of money as Kawhi, and they didn't give him that. So he wanted to go to the place with the most money. The Magic were in talks, like slightly the Mavericks, but it was mainly Philadelphia. And this was the landing spot for Paul George. I think it's a perfect fit, and I think Philadelphia is in contention to win the East. I think it's going to be them on paper. First, we don't know how the team's going to play, but if everyone's healthy, on paper, Sixers, Celtics right now are the two teams that are looking like here. And then you obviously have the Bucks, and I think the Bucks and the Knicks are here, and the Sixers and the Celtics are here. Sixers are here, and then the Celtics and Knicks are there. But it's going to be a really good Eastern Conference. The Cavs haven't done a lot, but the Magic also did some. Signed Contavious Caldwell-Pope, re-signed Joe Ingles. So I think the East is going to get better as well. So we move on to the next big deal that we saw today, and that was Klay Thompson to the Mavericks. So we're gonna pull up Klay Thompson here, our second, I guess, big star player going to a different team. Is Klay Thompson going to the Mavericks? Right. So Klay Thompson signed a 3-year, $50 million deal. This was technically a sign and trade deal. It sent 2 second rounders to the Warriors and Josh Green to the Hornets. So mind blowing. The big three of Klay, Draymond, Steph won 4 rings together, played for over a decade together, is officially done. I think now we can rest the dynasty. Dynasty's gone. And I think Klay wanted the money, right? And Klay wanted to play on a championship contending team while also being a provider to the team. And with the Mavericks, you're joining a team that just made the NBA Finals. So this team's going to be around. Luka's in his prime, Kyrie's still in his prime, and they have really, really good role players. PJ Washington, Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford. These are all players that can contribute to the team now. And I think with the Mavericks, they made deals during the trade deadline. And honestly, PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford might not have been super like in tight with the team and being familiar with the plays, this and that. So now they have a full offseason together with Klay Thompson now. So I love this acquisition for the Mavericks. We saw in the playoffs, especially in the finals, sometimes the threes weren't going down. And what's a better player than a top 5 shooter in NBA history? We know he's slightly past his prime, and certain things have caught up to Klay. I mean, Father Time is undefeated, but this is still hands down a really good shooter. Also, on the defensive end, Klay's probably not where he was 3 or 4 years ago, but that's not what the Mavericks need. I think the Mavericks needed that third option. We saw PJ Washington be that against the Thunder, especially as a Thunder fan, slight bias. But in the other series in the playoffs, he wasn't really doing that. So I love this deal. They also lost Derrick Jones, but they got Najee Marshall on a 3-year, $27 million deal. I like Najee Marshall. Physical defender. I think he can provide some defense on that second unit. But I think that this lineup of Kyrie, Klay, Luka, PJ Washington, and Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively could cause havoc in the West. But we've saw the West get immensely better. So we'll go to the Thunder. The Thunder, I think, have had a very underrated offseason. I think the big deal, obviously the Caruso trade, we'll touch on that. Got Alex Caruso for Josh Giddey, just straight up 1-for-1, no picks, no nothing. Josh Giddey was just kind of a liability in the playoffs. Honestly, was getting benched to the later parts of the series for Isaiah Joe, and I think after the whole scandal with whatever was going on with him, it took a toll on him, and rightfully so. It will take a toll on anyone to have some sort of scrutiny and for people to call you this, that, whatever. And it took a toll on his game. I saw Josh Giddey in the playing against the Pelicans drop a 30-point triple-double. And to see this kind of regression, not really looking to shoot the ball, kind of being passive-aggressive. There are some flashes sometimes where Josh Giddey would get the ball off the rebound and dash down to the court, either make a nice layup or kick it to someone in the corner. But Josh Giddey wasn't doing that. But for Alex Caruso, this is a glue guy. Imagine Lou Dort and Alex Caruso on the defensive side of the ball. They're going to cause havoc. I love Alex Caruso, the way he plays. He's 30 years old. I think he has 2-3 more years of his prime, which is perfect for the Thunder. They're not going to necessarily rely on Alex Caruso to make plays on the offensive end, kind of just to bring that veteran leadership to a team that was one of the youngest in the league and that was the number 1 seed. And the other deal that they got which was probably my favorite deal of the offseason. 3 years, $87 million to Isaiah Hartenstein. What Isaiah Hartenstein brings to the floor is not only the offensive, defensive end, but also his rebounding. We saw time and time again that in the playoffs, especially because Mitchell Robinson was banged up, we saw Isaiah Hartenstein kind of be that big for the Knicks that could also bring that physicality, right? And it's a perfect fit with Chet because Chet can spread the floor, and you can have Isaiah Hartenstein set screens, get offensive rebounds, things of that nature. And I think the Knicks honestly just didn't have enough money for Isaiah Hartenstein. But the fit with Hartenstein, with the Thunder, and we have plenty of money. I'm speaking as we as the Thunder. The Thunder have plenty of money to decipher around. They brought back Isaiah Joe, and we brought back Aaron Wiggins. So a bunch of money. And I think Hartenstein's going to love the team. And with those guys taking the next step, Shea could take a next step. Shea, J-Dub, Chet, all those young guys. Jalen Williams, Cason Wallace. All those guys could take a big jump. So I expect the Thunder to stay around that 1 to 3 range in the Western Conference. So one quick thing I want to touch on: Chris Paul of the Spurs, and solely, I think this is a great mentor for Wembanyama. We saw in the regular season, Wembanyama wasn't getting the ball to the fall of Jeremy Sohan, Keldon Johnson, whoever. But when you have a generational talent, Wembanyama could go down as a top 20 player of all time. If things go right, no injuries, he could definitely be that or higher. His ceiling is off the charts. It's limitless. So when you have a maestro of the game like Chris Paul, who could pick apart defenses, his IQ is off the chart. One of the best basketball minds we've ever seen touch the floor. One of the best playmakers. To pair that with Wembanyama, I don't think they're going to do anything serious. Maybe make a play-in. But I think it's more of just the development of Wembanyama in which they signed him. And I think that's a classy move by Chris Paul. And I think that dude is going to create some plays, and that's going to be a fun team to watch. Any team that has Wembanyama was fun to watch with the Spurs, and they won less than 20 games, I think. Now you add Chris Paul, throwing lobs. It's going to be amazing. But the last thing I want to touch on is the Los Angeles Lakers. And I know people get tired of talking about the Lakers, but this is the biggest team in the NBA with the biggest NBA player we've probably ever seen, close to Michael Jordan and LeBron James. And I like what they did at the draft, drafted Dalton Connect. Obviously, people are going to talk about that Brownie pick. And in reality, what are you going to do with a second-round pick, right? Most second-round picks are either going to go to the G League or they're going to get cut. So even if Brownie plays in the G League, whatever, I think it's a smart move for the Lakers in terms of non-basketball things and basketball things. You know, it will make LeBron happy regardless of if he had a say in it or not. But Dalton Connect, I think, is going to be a really, really established player in the NBA from the jump. An experienced player in college, had the most 30-point games in NCAA Division I. And just as a casual college basketball watcher, see him in March Madness, he could go get a bucket anywhere. So I think that's something that the Lakers need. I would love to see him off the bench, maybe in a 6th or 7th man role. But people have been talking about the Lakers. What are they going to do in the offseason, this and that. I think the only guy that you can think of is DeMar DeRozan. And DeMar DeRozan's close to L.A. I think he grew up there, was born there. So if DeMar DeRozan can somehow go to the Lakers, that is completely a win. But that's it for free agent, the first couple days of free agency. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know about some rumors that are going on. But this is the best time of the year. Summer League is about to happen, so we're going to see the young stars play. But other than that, it's been your boy. Have a great night. Peace.